like in Italy we say with the ossessione, with the focus every day on it, and he made it possible. So if he make it, you can do it. Is what I think, and I'm trying to bring this mentality to the racing.
What goals are you setting for next season then? I guess difficult at this stage given the recovery, a lot will be determined by that, but of course you want 3 riders for next season on the GP25. Here's another of them, Pecco Bagnaia. Marc Marquez here on screen is the other. Is your goal to be fighting with these 2 guys next year?
I like to don't put goals in terms of results. I like to put goals in terms of practical things, let's say. And I wanna grow and I wanna improve and I wanna learn from them and try to have their level. Then what these levels bring to us, where we can arrive, I don't know. The result is a matter of many things: the injuries, results, crashes, non-crashes, choices. So the final result is difficult to say. But my goal is to have the same level of Marc Marquez and Bagnaia for next year. That's my goal.
Fabio, we know the GP24 this year was probably the best Grand Prix motorcycle that's ever been built. It was astonishing. You only have to look at the numbers, the victories, the podiums, the pole positions. It was clearly an incredible
thing to do. They are trying to improve the areas not from our bike, but improve the areas where we miss comparing the other manufacturers. I think there are some manufacturers that they are a little bit better comparing us in the middle of the corner, and there are other manufacturers that are a little bit better in comparing us on the street in terms of speed. So I think from the 2024 to the 2025, if we can find this, that bike is just another league. Could be. So I hope that Gigi thought it right, let's say.
Of course, over the weekend we saw a new MotoGP World Champion crowned in Jorge Martin, such a tense final round. But of course, he's a rider that you were teammates with back in his Moto3 World Championship season of 2018. You know him very well. What's your overall assessment of his championship season, and how impressed have you been with him?
I like what he done, because I know him since, as you say, since many times, and he worked so hard for this. Has never happened that in the MotoGP area that a private rider win a World Championship. So he and the team made an incredible job. And also, I think that this year they put an incredible show. They put on it, and I think won the best this year.
Fabio, you've been in that very sort of fortunate position this year in particular, where you've been able to have access to Pecco Bagnaia's data, to Marc Marquez's. Are there any areas that you've identified that you think, oh, well, maybe I need to take that step up next year to be close to their level? I'm sure they learn things off you as well, but what have you learned the most off observing Pecco and Marc closely?
Let's say that every rider has some particular things, and Marc is amazing on the left corners. He is really amazing, but he needs a lot on the right corners. Pecco is amazing on the brakings. Maybe on the brakings, maybe he's the best Ducati rider. Bastianini was the best in terms of keeping the tires fresh for the end of the race, and Martin was just that in the qualifying he can make a big difference in every area. So I was trying to study more Martin and Pecco, and sometimes Marquez, because we had the same bike. But honestly and luckily this year my lever was not that bad, so the difference was not that big, let's say, and also was difficult sometimes because the bike was different. But yeah, for sure I have many areas to have to improve, and for sure I will continue to study them.
And what have Ducati told you in terms of your input into development of the bike next year? I mean, obviously the factory team, Pecco and Marc, well, they'll have the majority say, but I mean, I'm assuming that because you're on the same bike as them, Ducati are open to your feedback, your comments to help them also develop the new bike?
Yeah, I think they will listen to me more from Sepang, because for sure all my infos were based on the 23 bike, and they said to me that already the 24 bikes have what I was asking for from the 23. So I think from Sepang they will start to follow me more about the direction of the bike, but also they are quite happy about my way of saying things, my crew shifts. But also Gigi has always said that I'm quite precise on the comments, So this makes me proud, and also it means that maybe I can really help the Ducati.
So closely with his riders, particularly at a childhood dream, really.
Was fantastic in Jerez that I sat down after the session and he came.
It's been just his third MotoGP start, so I think there's not any doubt from us that KTM give him the package that can compete up against the Ducatis. They've got the rider who can deliver.
Trying to beat Ducati, trying to even race Ducati was a bit of a thankless task in 2024, wasn't it, for much of the season? On Sundays in the Grand Prix, what a stat this is as far as Ducati concerned. There were only 7 non-Ducati podiums all season, and to his credit, Pedro Acosta took 5 of those. The only other 2 were Maverick Vinales' victory in Kota and Brad Binder in the opening Grand Prix in Qatar. Well, he's, as he told us he would do, be firmly back inside the VR46 Racing Team garage, keeping a close eye on the action and proceedings. Great to hear, wasn't it, in the commentary box for a short period of time this afternoon, the thoughts about Fabio Di Gianantonio. As he mentioned, it must have been really difficult for him to have walked away when he did. He'd just come off the back of an excellent 4th place in Phillip Island, a brilliant medical team that if he had any chance of being fully 100% fit for the opening Grand Prix in Thailand in the first weekend of next March, well, the absolute latest that he could undertake surgery would have to quickly follow that Thai Grand Prix in Buriram. I mean, that's what, a month or so ago since we were in Thailand. He's still got the shoulder in a sling. He's had to keep it mobile for a good 3 or 4 weeks, but the good news is, as he said, the recovery, the rehab is bang on course. They are sticking to the plan, and really encouraging signs to hear that Fabio could be back on 2 wheels as early as January.
You said to him, didn't you, good things happen, do well, and he's kind of been to the school of hard knocks in MotoGP. As mentioned this morning, there were times in 2022 where he must have thought that he was out of his depth in MotoGP. There must have been times in 2023 when he thought he was going to be out of the door in MotoGP, but he has overcome all of those obstacles to the point where he is now one of just 3 riders. That is such a vote of confidence and such a seal of approval from Ducati, that with just 3 GP25s available next season, 2 of which go, of course, to the factory team with Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez, that they are entrusting Fabio Di Gianantonio with the other for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, as he mentioned, some feat to miss 3 Grand Prix and then still find back the MotoGP World Championship goes Pecco Bagnaia, 3rd quickest at the moment on the factory Ducati. Pedro Acosta back in a familiar livery, of course, Moto3 and Moto2 World Champion for Red Bull KTM. Had to do a double take when he walked into the press room here yesterday. I thought it was initially Brad Binder, but here was Acosta then, 5th at the moment. It's been some good rides so far in this opening day of action for 2025. Johann Zarco also putting together an excellent strong day. 40 laps the Frenchman has completed for Castrol Honda LCR. Inside the top 6 is the 34-year-old Frenchman. Points in the last 9 Grand Prix. Their best in exactly a year since Marquez was 6 in Buriram. 2 top 10s, Mandalika and Buriram. Only 2 top 10s of the entire season for Honda on a Sunday. He was the only Honda rider that found himself in Q2 all year long in Aragon, Mandalika, Buriram. So first part of the season in public, he was sort of putting on a brave face about his frustrations, the lack of progress and the lack of performance from that Honda RC213V. Fair to say, we know he's a pretty forthright character, isn't he, as old Johann Zarco. Behind the scenes, it sounds like he wasn't too shy about letting Honda know his feelings about the lack of competitiveness from the RC213V.
Yes, I think 1 or 2 were slightly concerned when Johann Zarco made the move to LCR that might be out the season with KTM back in 2019. But Johann Zarco has grown up as a person and as a rider since then. Of course, he's a MotoGP winner now, which of course must make a huge... One of the unsung heroes, I think, of this 2024 season, pound for pound, when you take into account the machines that everybody is on and the situations they've been riding under. Johann Zarco has done as good a job as most in 2024, and he'll of course reach a milestone next season. 22-round championship next season, and 18 races into it, Johann Zarco will reach 300 Grand Prix starts.
I got the impression it was, well, that Mazzano test came at the perfect time for Honda as far as their relationship with Johann Zarco was concerned, because it was around that time where you did get a sense, even in public, he was getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit angry. Of cool, we'd love to have a microphone smack bang us at the moment. Having a chat there with Gigi Dall'Igna, who pretty much moved heaven and earth to move Marquez into factory team, a decision which Dall'Igna knew the consequences. He knew that he would have to sacrifice Jorge Martin, Enea Bastianini and the current World Championship winning team. All the collateral damage really of the Marquez signing was the fact that Martin and Bastianini moved on, and Prima Pramac Ducati also decided that after their long and very successful collaboration with Ducati, it was time for them to move on to a new challenge. It's a long-term commitment that Pramac have with Yamaha. It wasn't made public at the time itself. We went 7 years. I'm sure the press officers were like, Carol, come on mate, that's supposed to be Compa and Pramac have their own sort of feeder system, because they'll have Tony Arbolino and Ethan Guevara waiting in the wings from the newly formed Pramac Moto2 squad.
Yeah, that was announced yesterday. We don't yet know what bikes they're going to be on next season. The strong rumour in the paddock is that they'll be on Boscoscuro chassis in that Moto2 Pramac Yamaha squad, which certainly proved pretty successful this year for our MotoGP rookie Aya Guru, who won the World Championship on that Boscoscuro. And yes, if you look at their riders, they'll both be thinking, hey, there's a clear pathway now for us into MotoGP for the future. Jack Miller, of course, is one to be thinking, hey, if we can deliver all of that.
So we're looking at Bagnaia, the world champion, attacking now hard towards turn 10. I'm delighted to say, as we promised at the top of the hour, or just a little bit after, we welcome our latest special guest into the commentary box. It was a very different 2024 World Championship campaign for Nico Goyen, who for the first time sort of was in a management role down at what was Gas Tech 3, of course. Now switching over to Red Bull KTM Tech 3 for 2025. Exciting times for the French-based team as they welcome one of the most experienced lineups on next year's grid. Enea Bastianini, former Moto2 World Champion, of course, and Maverick Vinales. Nico, welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello.
It looks like day one's been pretty positive so far for your riders. Maverick Vinales inside the top 10, doing high 139s, and Enea Bastianini also making good progress on his first day in the office.
Need to understand the bike before to push. Well, that's obviously didn't really follow the plan. Well, let's go and see. He was improving. Well, it's a shame. We'll see. Sorry for that.
No problem at all, Nico. I totally understand. Always welcome to maybe join us a little bit later on this afternoon. I think that's what you call the ultimate commentator's curse. As now Nico actually has just gone into, he's going Olympic sprinter mode to head back out to the Tech 3 garage. So yeah, quite understandably so. He's got certainly more pressing matters than having a look.
Earlier on, it's a very easy thing to do there, and that's I think at least the fourth rider now we've seen go down there at turn 5 over the course of the day in two very different fashions. That was much more like the Luca Marini crash that we saw around about an hour and a half into the day this morning. So the Beast's first day with KTM and Tech 3 started reasonably well, but he's had a serious bump in the road midway through this afternoon session.
Yeah, unfortunately, when those bikes are ferried back to Mattinghofen, KTM's based in Austria, they don't need so much room on the truck now, do they, for that one? A lot of that's going to be straight to skip, you feel, because that was a big one. Luca Marini's crash, there certainly wasn't as much damage to the RC213V Honda as there was there for Bastianini's motorcycle. Here is Marc Marquez then. Well, throughout his factory Ducati tenure, Pecco Bagnaia has stressed the importance of communication, the importance of harmony inside the garage. He had it with Jack Miller, he had it with Enea Bastianini, and so far, as they work in tandem and work together, Bagnaia and Marc Marquez just having a little bit of a chat together. Of course, they are potentially going to be big rivals. I mean, there are some people in the paddock who think that this has got all the ingredients, all the hallmarks of being a sort of Rossi Biaggi, Rossi Lorenzo, Marquez Lorenzo, Marquez Rossi type big rivalry. But they both have spoken about the importance of doing their utmost to ensure Ducati's domination continues in MotoGP. They have raced hard each other already in the past when both been on Ducatis. Portimao and Jerez certainly spring to mind. Plenty more battle royales to follow in the future, but all cordial at the moment.
Well, it's in their interest in many respects to get along up to a point, because they want to work together to make that Ducati GP25 as competitive as possible. I guess their ideal scenario is we work to a point where our GP25 is the dominant package, and then we can then fight it out amongst ourselves on the track for first and second over the course of the day. Well, we have already seen a crash at turn 5 for Jorge Martin over the course of this afternoon session. We can get an update on the world champion from Jack in pit lane.
Yeah, just on that crash itself, I was just chatting to a couple of guys from Aprilia, of course. I'm sure you've said both Marco and Jorge won't be speaking to the media at the end of the day due to their contract with Ducati still being in place, but just to get an understanding of what happened with that first crash with the Aprilia. He said basically he was going too slow. He was sort of playing as I think Fabio Di Giannantonio, who was in the box at the time, had said. I can't remember who it was, whether it was his new teammate Marco Bezzecchi exactly, but they were both having an opportunity to follow one another. Also potentially felt just a lack of an understanding yet of where that front feel actually is when you've got the aero effect of a rider in front of you. So still a couple of things obviously to work on day one, but the good news was the bike came in, there was hardly any damage.